M1 Pro and M1 Max MacBooks are here, and I am freaking excited by just how great these laptops are going to be for real professionals like myself. These are my reactions. Let's just dive right into the brand new chips this year, starting with the M1 Pro. It can be configured up to a 10-core CPU, up to a 16-core GPU, up to 32 gigabytes of unified memory, and up to 200 gigabytes per second of memory bandwidth. The M1 Max goes even further, configurable up to a 32-core GPU, 64 gigabytes of unified memory, and 400 gigabytes per second of memory bandwidth. In short, these chips are looking to be incredibly powerful for professionals, configurable at every level imaginable for any kind of pro work you're looking to accomplish with this MacBook. And just for fun, this is the price of the highest spec M1 Max MacBook Pro laptop that Apple has to offer. Insanity. The graphs that they showed during the keynote were actually quite interesting, to be honest. They compared CPU and GPU performance to power consumption of high-end PC laptops, highlighting how the new M1 Pro chips are more or equally powerful while still consuming less power in watts. The graphs get even crazier though when you introduce the new M1 Max chip. It shows that it delivers similar performance to a high-end PC graphics laptop with approximately 100 watts less of power consumption. And to top it all off, because, Apple can just keep bragging about how great these laptops are, the performance that you're going to be getting on the M1 Pro and M1 Max chips will be equivalent regardless if you are battery powered or plugged in, which definitely is not the same to be said for Windows-based PCs. I think the biggest question that we have is whether or not we should be getting the 8-core or 10-core CPU M1 Pro chip, or if we should consider paying the big price upgrade to look at getting the M1 Max. To be completely honest with you, I cannot definitively tell you which configuration to get. However, I can tell you what to think about and what to prioritize, and that starts with the RAM. I think RAM is extremely important, and if you know you'll need more, upgrade that first, and then consider upgrading the CPU or GPU cores between the M1 Pro or the M1 Max, depending on your workflow and needs. I would personally avoid upgrading the SSD storage. Just get the base amount that it comes with, either the 512 or the 1 terabyte. I really don't think you'll need more than that, and if you do, you're way better off getting an external SSD, to be honest. And I think you should get the 14-inch model over the 16-inch, as that's an easy way to save money, as you're going to get the equivalent power regardless of the size that you go for, as you can get both the M1 Pro and the M1 Max chip on either device. I guess you could argue the bigger MacBook might have better thermal management, but that's something to wait and see for. And also, I think the 14-inch is just going to be easier to bring with you on the go. It's just going to be that much lighter and that much more portable, and I think that matters for things like this. Also, keep in mind, Apple releases brand new laptops almost every single year. Apple does an amazing job making you feel like you need to buy the absolute best that they have to offer, whether it would be the M1 Pro or the M1 Max, or getting up to 64 gigabytes of unified memory. Regardless of what you choose, this will be a sizable upgrade over the last year's M1 MacBooks, and that's thanks to also other new additions to these computers, starting with the display. Apple brought the Liquid Retina XDR display all the way to the new M1 MacBook Pros this year, and I could not be happier. You're essentially getting a display that is comparable to the Pro Display XDR, which goes for over $6,000, by the way. You get extreme dynamic range, 1:1 contrast ratio, HDR, 10,000 mini LEDs, and to me, the most exciting thing of all, ProMotion on Mac, giving us up to 120 Hz refresh rate while using Mac OS. I can confidently say that about 95% of the people buying the new MacBook Pros this year, this will be the absolute best display you've ever used on a laptop, period, in your entire life. No doubt about that, and I'm so excited to test this out next Tuesday. The engineering of the display was pretty impressive, coming in at less than 4 millimeters thick. The only odd thing about the display is the notch. And for one, you would think there's Face ID, but there's not. The only new thing about this little notch is the addition of the 1080p webcam, which, can I just say, finally, a brand new webcam in a MacBook laptop that isn't 720p. Like, it's about time, and I'm so thankful that Apple is finally doing this. But back to the notch, though, there is some positives to this. For one, the display bezels are actually thinner, about 24% thinner on the sides and up to 60% thinner at the top. I'm good with it, to be honest. I've actually never had a problem with notches. I might be in the small minority here, but I am super happy that they're able to shrink the bezels because of it. So I think that's a worthwhile trade-off. There's also brand new speakers this year with a 6-speaker sound system that supports spatial audio in Dolby Atmos. I have a feeling it's going to be very comparable to the M1 iMacs that came out this year. Those also have a 6-speaker Dolby Atmos spatial audio sound system. So I think it's going to be great to have that on the go for content consumption or whatever it is you're doing on your MacBooks. Microphones supposedly had an upgrade as well this year, so no complaints there. Always good to have better microphones. The other big announcement for these new laptops is the addition of more ports this year. You get a headphone jack, HDMI port, 3 Thunderbolt 4 ports, SD card reader, and a new MagSafe charger. Yeah, they brought back MagSafe charging to these laptops, and I think that's actually very underrated because now you get an extra Thunderbolt 4 port for something else other than charging. All of this is very exciting for me personally because I feel like I can finally rid myself of dongles and docks and USB-C hubs finally from my life when I'm on the go with my MacBook. I'm actually worried for a lot of third-party companies who have made a killing selling Apple users USB hubs because I feel like we have enough ports here now. I don't imagine needing more than this if you're on the go. Maybe that's just me. The only disappointing thing was that there was no Ethernet port, which I was kind of bummed out about. I am a professional that loves using a wired connection whenever possible. I cannot be the only one alone here on this, but anyway, so be it. Apple didn't include it this year. The touch bar on the keyboard is gone as well. We're now back to the original Magic Keyboard on the MacBook Pros. It's almost as if what's old is new again with a lot of the stuff I'm talking about with this new MacBook. A killer feature that is so underrated for laptops is fast charging. With these new MacBook Pros, you can fast charge your laptop up to 50% in just 30 minutes. That is so handy for someone like me who just always forgets to charge everything he owns. So fast charging, thank you, Apple. But something that Apple kind of misled people, I felt, was on the quotations of battery life. If you looked at their website, these new MacBook Pros actually clock in less battery life than the last year's M1 Max, at about 3 hours less. Not a big deal. I mean, these new M1 Pro chips are extremely powerful, but just something to keep in mind if battery life is at the top of your list of important features. So to wrap this whole video together, although this laptop is poised to be one of the best things that we've gotten in a long time for just portable computing power, these laptops are very expensive. You really are getting the best of the best that Apple has to offer. Like, this is bleeding edge technology at its finest, in my opinion. I personally ordered the 14-inch base model MacBook Pro, which comes with the M1 Pro chip with an 8-core CPU, 14-core GPU, 16 gigs of unified memory, and 512 gigabytes of SSD storage. I think this is the sweet spot. I think a lot of people are going to be very happy with this base model, and unless you're a hardcore professional, you may not need more than this. I just want to remind all of you that the base model M1 Max that came out last year, we were all very happy and content with how good those performed. I think the story of last year will be the same this year, where the base model 14-inch MacBook Pro is the real sweet spot. But what's different this year is for hardcore professionals. There is finally a pro-level M1 Mac for you, and one as expensive as the one I have on screen if you need all of that power to accomplish your work on the go. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure to drop a like down below, comment hashtag MacBook Pro, and subscribe if you're brand new to my channel. But I'll catch all of you guys in the next video. Peace.